All right, let's dig into a story I'm sure you've heard before, the one about the 11th hour thief. You know this one, right? I mean, even if you've never stepped foot inside a church, you've probably heard it. It's kind of become this cultural shorthand for, a last-minute redemption. And that's the version we usually get, isn't it? This story about some lucky guy who got the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. But what if that simple reading, that easy answer, misses the entire earth-shattering point? Because you see, when you really dig into the original language and just the brutal context of that day, you find a story that isn't just about one man's final moments. Oh no. It's a story that confronts everything we think we know about earning our way, about what justice is, and about grace.
So to get it, we have to go there. And I don't mean to a sanitized Sunday school picture. No, we have to go to the reality of it. Golgotha. It was an old limestone quarry, right outside the city gates, a place reserved for the public execution of the state's worst enemies.
Just imagine it. There's no incense here. The air is just thick with the smells of human suffering. That cheap, sour wine they'd give to dull the pain, the sweat of dying men, and that metallic tang of old blood that had stained this ground time and time again.
Okay, so here's our first big point. You've got to understand, this wasn't some quick or noble death. The Romans, they were absolute masters of this. Crucifixion was a public spectacle, and it was engineered for maximum humiliation and prolonged agonizing pain.
I mean, to put this in context, the great Roman orator Cicero called it exactly that, a slave's punishment. It was a punishment so vile, he argued it should never be inflicted on a Roman citizen. It was for slaves, for rebels, for the lowest of the low. It was all about making a brutal, public example out of you.
And this is where the popular version of the story really starts to break down. See, we call the men crucified with Jesus thieves. But the translation of a single Greek word, well, it changes everything. It reveals a much more violent and politically charged reality.
The word that's used in the original manuscripts is leste. Now, this isn't your average pickpocket. A lestes is a brigand, an insurrectionist. Think terrorist or a freedom fighter, depending on your perspective. These were violent men who almost certainly rode with Barabbas, the very murderer the crowds chose to free instead of Jesus.
So let's just be crystal clear about the difference here. We are not talking about someone who stole a loaf of bread. We're talking about men who lived and killed for a cause. Men who believed God's kingdom would come through the blade of a dagger. These weren't petty criminals. These are hardened killers.
So, the question is, how does a man like that, a violent revolutionary, have a change of heart while he's literally nailed to a cross? It wasn't a sermon he heard. It was watching an impossible act, an act that completely shattered his entire worldview. First, you hear the voice of his world. It comes from his partner in crime, hanging on the other side, and he spits out the logic of power. Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. It's a demand, right? A demand for a show of force. It's the only language Alestes understands. And then comes the reply that changes everything. But it's not even directed at the rebel. Jesus looks down at the Roman soldiers gambling for his clothes, at the religious leaders mocking him, at the jeering crowd, and he asks God to forgive them. Forgiveness in the middle of torture. This was an act of power so foreign, so absolute, it broke through this revolutionary's lifetime of hate. And in that moment, you can almost see it. Something just clicks. This dying insurrectionist, in his final breaths, he turns, he rebukes his friend, and then he speaks words of the most profound theology you will find anywhere in Scripture. It's just incredible.
I mean, just look at this progression. It's like a 4-act play. First, he fears God. He acknowledges a reality beyond their immediate suffering, a higher judgment. Second, he admits his guilt. He takes responsibility. We are getting what our deeds deserve. Third, he declares Jesus' innocence, a clear moral statement. This man has done nothing wrong. And then finally, he puts it all together in this unbelievable act of faith.
He looks at a naked, bleeding, dying man, a man mocked by the entire world and abandoned by his own friends. And what does he see? He sees a king. He sees a kingdom that isn't of this world. He doesn't ask to be saved from the cross. He asks to be remembered in the kingdom that comes after the cross. I mean, that is just staggering faith.
Okay, so now let's look at Jesus' response. Because there are no strings attached here. There's no list of rules, no religious hoops to jump through. I mean, there's no time for any of that. There is only time for grace.
It's a simple, powerful promise.
Truly, he's saying, listen, this is an unshakable truth, today, not in some distant future, but right now. You will be with me, a promise of personal companionship. And then there's that final word, in paradise.
And you know, that word, paradisos, is so specific. It wasn't just some generic word for heaven. It was actually a Persian word for a king's private walled garden, a place of incredible beauty and intimacy, a place reserved only for the king's most trusted friends. Jesus wasn't just promising a ticket to heaven. He was promising personal friendship, an invitation into his inner circle.
So why does this ancient story still matter so much? Because in the end, it isn't really about a man who lived 2,000 years ago. It's a mirror. It's about us.
Just think about it for a second. This man had absolutely nothing to offer. His hands were nailed down. He couldn't serve. His feet were nailed down. He couldn't go on a mission trip. He had no money to put in an offering plate, and he had no time left. No time to clean up his act or perform a bunch of good deeds. He was utterly, completely bankrupt.
All he had was his voice, and a simple, desperate plea that was born of faith. He couldn't bring a single thing to the table. His only offering was his own brokenness and this radical belief that the man dying next to him was a king who could save him.
And this is the radical truth of it all. This one story single-handedly dismantles any system of religion based on merit or good works. If you have to earn your way, he was hopeless. If you can lose it, well, he never had a chance to hold on to it. His story proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that salvation is a gift. It's given freely to anyone who simply asks in faith.
So you see, the story of the Lestis, the revolutionary, it isn't some historical footnote about a lucky break. It's the model for all of us. It shows us that no one is too far gone, and that the only requirement is to look at the King on the cross and simply ask to be remembered. The King is still saving people just like him. The only question left is, will you let him save you?